My husband hired a hitman to kill me and steal everything I'd worked for. Days later, I vanished, faked my own death, and he never saw the storm of revenge I was about to unleash for every ounce of his betrayal. Naomi Vance stepped out of her gleaming downtown Atlanta law firm, the echo of her heels swallowed by the city's hum. She had just crushed a high-profile corporate case, another victory that promised prestige and a fat bonus, but the triumph felt hollow. Colleagues clapped her on the back, yet their cheers rang empty. A polished smile stayed glued to her face while unease coiled tighter in her chest. Lately, her husband, Julian, had become someone she barely recognized. That evening, she arrived home earlier than usual to their elegant Buckhead brownstone. The living room glowed softly, but Julian wasn't in his favorite armchair. His sport coat lay abandoned across the sofa, a half-empty glass of whiskey sweating on the table. "Julian?" she called. The refrigerator door clanged shut in the kitchen. He appeared moments later, shirt crisp, hair slicked back, flawless as ever, but his smile carried an edge that twisted her stomach. "You're early," he said lightly, eyes scanning her like he was sizing up an opponent. "Case closed faster than expected," she answered, kicking off her heels. "Thought we could actually eat together for once." He hesitated, then nodded. "Sure, I'll order in. I haven't cooked." While he tapped at his phone, Naomi watched him, love and suspicion warring inside her. The distant looks, the little lies, the nights he never came home. Trust, the foundation of their marriage, was crumbling. Over takeout sushi in front of a silent television, she tried to bridge the widening gap. "How's the Onyx Lounge?" she asked, feigning casual interest. Julian didn't look up from his plate. "Busy as ever. People always need a place to celebrate." "You've been busy too," she pressed gently. "I hardly see you anymore." For a split second, irritation flashed in his eyes before the practiced smile returned. "You know how it is, working hard now so we can relax later." She nodded, but doubt rooted deeper. Later, when Julian disappeared into the bedroom, Naomi stayed on the sofa, pretending to answer emails. His phone sat unguarded on the coffee table. Same passcode they'd shared for years. Heart pounding, she unlocked it. One thread stopped her cold. Messages to someone saved only as P. The newest read, "All set for tomorrow. No mistakes." Ice slid down her spine. She snapped the phone shut just as his footsteps approached. He paused in the doorway. "Still working?" His tone carried a faint accusation. "Just finishing up," she lied, closing her laptop. He studied her for a beat too long, then left without another word. Naomi sat frozen, feeling the perfect facade of their life splintering around her. Days later, at a dinner with friends, Julian played the charming husband to perfection, laughing, touching her arm, dazzling everyone. But Naomi caught every avoided glance, every forced smile. In the restroom, her best friend Chloe cornered her. "Talk to me, something's wrong." Naomi swallowed the truth. "Just tired from work." Chloe's eyes said she wasn't fooled, but she let it drop. When the night ended, Julian lingered outside to speak with a man Naomi didn't recognize. From the car, she watched the stranger hand Julian a thick envelope that disappeared inside Julian's jacket. On the drive home, she asked, "What was that about?" He kept his eyes on the road. "Club business, nothing you'd care about." The chill in his voice struck her like a slap. For the first time in their marriage, she felt utterly alone beside the man she'd built a life with. That night, while Julian slept, Naomi stood at the window, nursing a glass of wine, the Atlanta skyline glittering like broken promises. Questions spun through her mind. What was he hiding? What did tomorrow mean? Then his phone buzzed again. Same contact, don't fail. Fear crashed over her, sharp and real. She didn't wake him. She didn't scream. Not yet. She needed proof. But deep in her gut, a terrifying truth was already taking shape. The man sleeping down the hall wanted her dead, and she was about to make him regret it. Julian was no longer the man she'd vowed to love. As Atlanta's lights pulsed beyond the window, Naomi made a silent vow of her own. She would survive whatever he was planning, even if she still didn't know the shape of it. The man sleeping down the hall wasn't her husband anymore. He was a threat wearing a familiar face. The alarm blared the next morning, but Naomi had never closed her eyes. All night, the words from P had looped in her head. Tomorrow is the day, don't fail. She stared at Julian's peaceful face and hated how innocent he looked. Trust had died quietly sometime in the dark. Now only survival remained. At the office, she moved like a ghost. Her assistant Elena paused in mid-sentence. "You look like you haven't slept in a week. Trouble at home?" Naomi forced a laugh that tasted like rust. Just deadlines. But the question lingered. If Elena could see it, could Julian? By noon, she'd made the call she never imagined making. Darius Stone, ex-cop turned private investigator, discreet as a shadow, answered on the second ring. "I need you," she whispered. "It's my husband." That evening, wrapped in a scarf and oversized sunglasses, she met Darius in a dim corner cafe. The words scraped her throat raw. "I think he wants me gone." Darius didn't flinch. He simply opened a small leather notebook and started writing. 3 days later, he slid an envelope across her desk. She locked the door before tearing it open. Photographs spilled out. Julian in a filthy alley behind the Onyx Lounge, shaking hands with a thick-necked man whose face carried old knife scars. Name, Duke Miller. Rhapsode, longer than her arm. Extortion, kidnapping, bodies that never turned up. Naomi's pulse hammered so hard she could barely hear Darius's calm voice on the phone. "They're planning something big. Your name came up. I don't have details yet, but it's happening soon." The line went dead, but the warning screamed in her ears. She stared at the city sprawling beneath her office window and felt the walls of her perfect life collapse inward. Tomorrow had arrived, and Julian was ready. But so, she decided in that breathless moment, was she. The days that followed were suffocating. Julian showered her with roses, candlelight dinners, soft touches, everything picture perfect. Yet every gesture felt like a countdown. Naomi smiled back while her skin crawled. One night, alone with Darius's latest files, she spotted what she'd missed before. 3 massive wire transfers from their joint account to an offshore shell, timed exactly with Julian's meetings with Duke. The realization hit like a fist. He wasn't just planning to kill her. He was already spending her money. Dawn broke cold and decisive. She couldn't fight this alone anymore. With trembling hands, she walked into Zone 5 precinct and asked for Detective Marcus Jones, a man whose name carried weight in every courtroom she'd ever stepped into. When she sat across from him, the words came out raw and steady. "My husband is going to murder me for my money." She slid the photos, the bank records, the screenshots across his desk. Jones studied them without blinking, then looked up. "We do this quiet, and we do this right. You ready to wear a wire?" Naomi didn't hesitate. "Put me in, coach." Within 48 hours, the police had flipped a low-level soldier in Duke's crew, Leon Leo Walker. Rough edges, convincing scars, and a hidden recorder strapped to his chest. The first tape landed on Jones' desk like a bomb. Julian's voice calm and poisonous. She trusts the routine. Always takes the same route home after her spin class. One accident, brakes fail, bridge railing gives way, done. Duke, gruff, "Insurance payout hits your account clean?" Julian almost laughing. 7 figures the day they pull her from the river. By the time anyone asks questions, I'll be grieving in Bali. Naomi listened in the precinct, knuckles white, tears burning but never falling. That wasn't the man she'd married. That was a stranger wearing her husband's face and plotting her last breath. Jones turned to her. "We can pick him up now, but it's circumstantial. Good lawyers walk. We need him on tape with you admitting it to your face. You willing?" Naomi's fear hardened into something sharper. He wants to play me one last time? Fine, let's give him the performance of his life. That night, she waited in the living room, lights low, a tiny mic hidden in the pendant at her throat. Julian walked in, loosened his tie, and smiled like nothing was wrong. Naomi handed him a glass of his favorite scotch, let her fingers linger on his. "I've missed you," she said, voice soft, almost broken. "Feels like we're losing each other." He sat close, took the glass. "We're fine, babe. Everything's fine." She leaned in, eyes glistening on cue. "Then why does it feel like you're already saying goodbye?" For a second, the mask slipped. Something cold and calculating flickered behind his eyes. He set the glass down too hard. "What exactly?" Julian only smiled. Later, in the briefing room, Joan spread new files like tarot cards. Duke's crew isn't scrabbling. They're mobilizing. Leo just sent this. He hit play. Duke's gravel voice. "Vance is locked up, but the wife still breathes. She testifies next month. We all go down. Clean it up. No more accidents. Make her disappear for good." Naomi felt every eye in the room turn to her. Jones spoke softly. "This is bigger than a greedy husband. Offshore accounts, trafficking routes, half the Port Authority on payroll. You're the loose thread that can unravel the whole thing." "So what now?" she asked. "Witness protection? New name, new life?" "That's an option," Jones said. "But running means they win, and they'll still come for you again someday." Naomi looked at the photos of Duke, at Julian's smug mugshot, at the red dots marking safe houses that suddenly didn't feel safe at all. That night, inside a windowless police-safe apartment, she finally called Chloe. "Naomi? Oh my God, are you okay?" "No," she answered, voice cracking for the first time in days. "But I'm done being prey." Chloe was quiet a beat. "Then what are you going to be?" Naomi stared at her reflection in the black screen of the turned-off TV. Fake blood long washed away, but something new, fire in her eyes. "The reckoning," she said. The next morning, she walked back into the precinct wearing the same charcoal suit she'd worn the day she thought her life ended. She laid a legal pad on Joan's desk. On it, in her own handwriting, every account number, every shell company, every dirty judge Julian had bragged about in bed, every name she'd overheard and memorized over years of pillow talk. "Use me," she told Jones. "Put me on the stand. Let them come. I'm not hiding anymore." Jones studied her for a long moment, then gave a single grim nod. Outside, storm clouds stacked over Atlanta like loaded guns. Naomi stepped into the hallway, heels clicking like a countdown. They wanted a widow? Fine. She'd give them a war. "I'm not hiding anymore," Naomi said, voice low but unbreakable. "They wanted me quiet. Now they're going to hear me scream." Rain hammered the precinct windows like gunfire. In the war room, maps and surveillance photos covered every wall. Detective Jones paced, boots thudding. "Leo's inside the warehouse tonight." He tapped a red circle on the blueprint. "Dukes and the lieutenants are meeting to decide how fast they can put you in the ground before you testify." Naomi didn't flinch. "Then let's crash their party." He started to protest. She cut him off. "You need my voice on those recordings, right? The one person they'll talk openly around is the woman they think is already scared silent. Use me." He stared at her for a long second, then gave a curt nod. "You'll be wired and covered. One wrong move and we pull you. No debate." Night swallowed the city. From the back of an unmarked van, Naomi watched the warehouse windows glow sickly yellow. Leo's voice crackled through the headset, calm as death. "Duke's here. 2 lieutenants. They're starting." Duke's rasp leaked into the van like poison. "She testifies in 21 days. We're all doing life. We don't wait for another accident. We take her tonight." Another voice. Cops are crawling all over her. Duke laughed. Can we make it hurt? Message has to be clear. Naomi's pulse thundered in her ears, but her hands were steady. Jones gave the signal. Tires screamed, floodlights blasted, armored officers breached every door with a battering ram and a roar. APD, down, down. Inside, chaos exploded. Gunfire cracked. Sparks danced off steel walls. Over the radio, suspect firing. Flank left. Duke's running. Naomi gripped the van's door handle until her knuckles went white. 30 seconds later came the call. Warehouse secure. 4 in custody. Duke is down, wounded, alive. When the dust settled, Jones escorted her inside. The air stunk of gunpowder and blood. Duke sat cuffed to a metal pole, thigh wrapped in a pressure bandage, hate blazing from his eyes. Naomi walked straight to him. He grinned through red teeth. Look who grew a spine. She crouched so they were eye level. You keep saying there are bigger fish? Good. I'm excellent at gutting sharks. Duke leaned forward as far as the cuffs allowed. You think this ends with me bleeding on a warehouse floor? There are names you'll never touch. People who own judges, cops, entire zip codes. Keep coming, princess. They'll bury you so deep, they'll need satellites to find the pieces. Naomi smiled. Small, sharp, lethal. Then I'll bring the satellites. She stood, turned her back on him, and walked out into the rain without looking back. Later, alone in the safe house, she poured a single glass of whiskey she didn't drink. City lights flickered beyond the bulletproof glass. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. A new voicemail. A different voice this time. Older, cultured, amused. Mrs. Vance, you've been busy. Enjoy your little victories. They make the fall so much sweeter. The message ended with the soft clip of a chess piece settling on a board. Naomi deleted it, set the phone down, and stared at her reflection in the dark window of the TV. They wanted to play. She was done being a pawn. Now she was the queen. And the board was about to burn. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was for every name buried in those files, every life these people had erased to protect their empire. Naomi stared at the glowing monitors until the faces blurred. Then one face sharpened into focus. Clayton Albright, her stepfather, smiling in a society page photo like the Devil Wore Brooks Brothers. And the recorded voice beside it, her mother. The room spun. Jones paused the tape the second he saw Naomi go white. You okay? She wasn't, but she nodded anyway. Played again. Adrian Vance's voice, elegant and arctic. Clayton, she's my daughter, and she's becoming a problem. Handle it, or I will. Naomi's knees buckled. Jones caught her elbow. Your own mother, he said quietly. Jesus Christ. That night the raid went down hard and fast. Unmarked SUVs, no lights, battering ram through the 12-foot gates of the Albright estate. Body cams caught everything. Clayton lunging for a hidden safe, Adrian clutching a glass of bourbon like it could shield her, ledgers and burner phones spilling across Italian marble. From the surveillance van, Naomi watched her childhood home turn into a crime scene. When they dragged her mother in cuffs, Adrian straight looked into the nearest camera, straight into Naomi's soul, and smiled, the same thin smile she used to give when Naomi brought home straight A's that weren't perfect. Jones turned to her. You want to go in? Say your piece? Naomi shook her head. Not yet. Hours later, she changed her mind. The interrogation room smelled of bleach and old coffee. Adrian sat cuffed to the table, still poised, still beautiful, still a stranger. Naomi closed the door. Why? One word, raw as an open wound. Adrian lifted her chin. Because you stopped being my daughter the moment you decided to burn our family down. You burned it down? I laughed, sharp and broken. You took out a contract on my life. Clayton said it would be clean, a tragic accident. You'd never feel a thing, darling, and we'd finally be safe from the mess you kept digging into. Safe. I tasted the word like poison. You sold me for offshore accounts and a seat at the grown-ups table. Adrian's mask slipped just for a second. Something that might have been regret flickered, then froze over again. You were always too stubborn, Naomi. Too loud. Some daughters protect their mothers. You chose to destroy your mother. Naomi leaned in until they were inches apart. No, Mother. You destroyed yourself the day you decided I was expendable. She straightened, wiped her tears with the back of her hand, and walked to the door. Before she opened it one last time, she looked back. For what it's worth, I hope you rot. The door closed behind her. In the hallway, Jones was waiting. You good? No, she said, voice steady now, but I will be, when every last one of them is in the ground or behind bars, whichever comes first. Jones handed her a fresh cup of coffee and the thick case file marked State versus Albright et al. Naomi took both, rolled her shoulders like a fighter stepping into the ring, and opened the file. Round 1 was over. The real war started now.